What's up, guys? My name is Marco. I'm a grateful, naturalized citizen to the United States of America, and Donald Trump's my president. Yeah! I'm here with Ignacio Cruz. He is a former congressional candidate for District 19. Are you still going to run for the district next round, or
Yeah,
maybe?
absolutely. I'm going to run. I'm like I mentioned before. I need to find a new strategy. This place is full of Democrats, and on the very extreme left. And I think there's a middle ground that we can find where we can win, but probably not as a Republican in this district. If I want to go Republican, I have to find another district in California and see if it's a little bit, more winnable than this one. This one is plus 25% Democrat. So I mean, it's an uphill battle, even if I were the nominee for the Republican Party. And let me tell you the difference in votes. The last election in 2018 was 150,000 for the Democrat and something close to 50,000 for the Republican. So it's a big deal.
I'm going to try to share this on different pages here.
Okay.
But so let's just get right to it. So a lot of people have been protesting out there. I did I've been doing a report on the White House and their approach to the reopening of America. And I even did one in Spanish. Today I finished it in Spanish, a whole hour. And I put the graphics there and the approach. And you have the approach is three phases. And then you have the criteria to qualify for those phases. And what the responsibilities for people, for employers, for special employers are. And to qualify for those spaces, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you have to qualify with to
for
open
for the support or
community.
for what? To qualify for what? For the rescue package?
What's that?
To qualify for the rescue package, or what do you mean qualify?
No. To qualify to be part of phase one, to be eligible to reopen your state.
Oh, okay.
But it seems that a lot of governors are already going right to it.
Well, some places like New York, for example, need to be a lot more cautious, and another place like Indiana, Kansas, states that have very minimal infection, they could probably start opening right away. It really depends. It's a case-by-case basis. You need to know where you stand in your state, and the governors definitely understand better than anyone else where their states are at. So the guidelines are guidelines. It doesn't mean you have to obey them 100%. They're just guidelines. And I think they're basically designed for the states that have, like New York, that have the most critical situation. So I think it's really a case-by-case basis.
Right. But see, the guidelines are pretty much, I mean, these guys are doing all the work. And see, that's where it kind of, it becomes a little bit of an issue, because some governors are more, I guess, more linear, and they don't want to respect those guidelines at all. They just want to go right to it.
Well, like I said, they're guidelines. And ultimately, remember, there was a debate last week about who had the right to open up the states. The president was saying he was, and then the governors were saying, no, it's us. So ultimately, it's the governors that have that decision, and it's they who understand what their state is about and what's the situation on the ground. That's why I'm saying, I mean, they're just guidelines. That doesn't mean they have to obey them 100% to the letter. They're just guidelines. I mean, it's just like a general guideline. So
right. But then you have this guy Fucci. His name is
Fauci.
He did go on the what is it? The morning
show.
America.
Yeah.
And he did say that this could backfire, and this all this protests that we're doing out there, and that the reopening could take longer now because of all this.
Well, in theory, yeah, it can backfire. And they're always speaking what could possibly happen. in the whole spectrum of things. Yeah, it could, and maybe it couldn't. Ultimately, it's really like, I mean, I've been talking to a lot of people, and we really don't have a lot of concrete information. So we need to do what we best can do. And for me, for example, I prefer to stay, safe at home. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not joining any protest. I'm not doing anything like that, because I really don't have enough information to say this is a lie, this is true, there's no bug, or there is, or it's lethal, it's not lethal. I really don't know. So I'd rather just, play it on the safe side and be at home. Plus, I'm getting a lot of work done, writing and stuff like that. So for me, it's okay.
I know exactly what you're saying, because I usually go live every Friday, and I just go on a free rant and just talk. And I feel the message, and I connect with the message, and I connect with people, with America, and I feel that I can motivate people. But with this coronavirus, I haven't been able to do it. I haven't gone live like that for 3 months, because I really feel that I don't have a solid message on this. You can't grab yourself. It's so hard. I don't want to tell people, go out there and protest. And what if one of them gets sick?
Yeah, what if they die, right? Exactly. I mean, that's what I'm saying. For example, today I posted on Facebook a statistic, just a statistic, that as of today, there are COVID-19 is responsible for more deaths in the United States as of today in 2020 than anything else in the US. And a lot of people are pushing back, saying it's a lie, it's this, it's that, I'm brainwashed. I don't, that the numbers are padded, and maybe they are, but I don't have any real data one way or the other than, statistics that are being offered by serious organizations. So, we're all in the same boat, and we don't know what's real, what isn't real. But it's stating a simple fact in terms of, the source is a reliable source. We can't even agree on that. So I really don't know where we stand in terms of if we're ready to say something like, let's go out, it's safe. Don't worry about it. Nothing's going to happen. I don't even know where we're at. All I know is, the official numbers that they may be listing on different sites like the CDC, like on Fox, like other statistical websites. That's all the real information that we have. So we need to sort of evaluate that, analyze it for ourselves, and determine on an individual basis, let's go out, let's stay home, whatever. Like I said, I prefer to be on the safe side and stay home.
A lot of most of the patriots, I guess you would say, are the ones that are trying to get this going, but some of the GOP, some of the the establishment, they send me a message and they say, hey, Marco, some would argue, like, they didn't tell me what to do, but they're always sending me messages like that. They don't tell me what to do. They're saying, but you could be in conflict with the general message.
I mean, that's true. And look, I like my president. I think he's doing a great job. So I'm going to follow their lead generally, especially if it's going on, decisions on the safe side. That's why I'm not worried about a lot of people saying, we need to go out there, do this, do that. I'm not going to do it ultimately. And a lot of people on the right, effectively, maybe a little more radical than, the average conservative, are extremely sort of proactive in getting everything up and running immediately. But like I said, the majority of the country, according to a poll that was released today, does not agree with that. 70% of the country wants to take a slow process in opening the country, because ultimately we just don't know. They may be right. Maybe there's nothing more to fear, but we don't really know that,
Actually, I was going to call you the day before yesterday because I was going to go to Sacramento. I didn't go let me tell you why I didn't go to Sacramento. I was ready, but really in the kitchen, my wife and my daughter, they cornered me, man.
Yeah.
They said, "You're responsible. You're going out there." Just they were gonna put me on self quarantine and put me on the side of the house.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
2 days.
I completely understand your wife and your children. You know, we can't just think about ourselves. We need to worry about our children, our spouses, our families, whoever we interact with in our own home, because we really don't know what's going on out there. We don't have any real information to say, you know, we can make a decision, a concrete decision, and period. We know we're right. We just don't have that information. So that was a good decision on your part, more than anything, because of the safety of your family. And so, you know, I'm happy you decided that.
Hey, we have somebody from Actopan, Hidalgo here.
All right. Actopan, paisano.
Aria Levasi.
Maria Levasi. I don't know.
Friend of yours?
No, I actually don't know him, but thank you for the. No te conozco, pero gracias por el saludo.
So, okay, so you've been writing. I saw you had a something. You have a pamphlet that you want to give to. You wrote something that you want to give to your followers or people to educate.
Well, I'm writing a free ebook on some of these issues so they can have sort of a general guideline. I'm writing a couple of free ebooks that I'm going to give away on Facebook and on all my social media, so they can have something to read, something to follow, some guidelines, basic stuff. But you know, obviously, like I said, you know, I've been doing a lot of reading, a lot of research, and there really isn't a lot of concrete information that you can say one way or the other in terms of contradicting the numbers that are out there right now. You know, if the government says or the official count from all these different sources say, you know, we have 43,000 dead. Okay, you know what? We have 43,000 dead. If a lot of people start arguing, you know what? Those numbers are padded. Well, guess what? Maybe they are, but I don't have any data to say what percentage is padded, to say X amount of dead should even qualify, because they're discovering a lot of different things with this virus. For example, they now discovered that it causes heart failure, kidney failure, and some other respiratory damage. So, you know, maybe they are expanding the impact it has and qualifying everything as a COVID-19 death if it's within those parameters. But I don't see that as a bad thing. It's better to be safe and sorry to have real numbers, and then maybe later on you can filter through the data and decide what was real and what wasn't. So as of right now, you know, people just get all bent out of shape when you say, you know, people are dying from a COVID-19. It's like they don't want you to believe that anyone is dying, that absolutely no one has died from COVID-19 in 2020, which is absolutely false, you know? So it's kind of hard. And, you know, I'm one of those Republicans. Well, I'm a Trump Republican or a conservative. I'm in the middle, quite honestly. And for me, it's more about economics and policy that addresses real issues and not about being one way or the other. So being in the middle is really hard when you have the people on the right just trying to negate everything or all the information that is coming out. It's really hard. So it's a challenge, but, you know, I'm still putting the information out there. I'm writing some things, and hopefully it'll provide some perspective. But, you know, it's like sometimes talking to a wall.
I know exactly what you're saying about being in the middle, and that's how I feel. And I try not to hurt anybody there, but yeah, it's hard because I know somebody that went to the ICU. They put him in coma, and his wife called me. It's one of my clients, and
yeah,
I'm helping him with his mortgage because he's not going to be able to pay his mortgage, and so. I now know the guy, so I know that this is real. This can happen to you out there.
Yeah,
and I mean, outside protesting. I mean, I commend them for the service they're doing. It's a great thing that they're trying to inspire people and helping people not to be fearful, but at the same time, if you read the guidelines, and if there is people that are vulnerable or at risk with this, like people that have pre-existing conditions, anybody that's sick at home, if when you go back home, it might not be you who dies or who gets sick, but it might be your family member,
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that completely, 100%. And that's the problem. Uh, they're just not taking it that seriously, I think. And they're trying to really downplay all the numbers. They're saying, well, 1% or 2% mortality rate. Well, yeah, but that 2% that gets infected and that 2% that dies, it's going to affect them. Maybe not. It might not affect you like you're saying, but you're going to affect somebody. And that's the real issue. And so if we want to be socially responsible, well, let's figure out what the truth is. Let's not be all in big groups protesting to open the government or open the economy or whatever. And, try to make the best of this situation as possible. And, like your friend who's having problems with the mortgage. I mean, there's some help right now with, holding off on the payment and everything until we know what's going on. I mean, they're providing a lot of help, but ultimately, yes, we have to open the economy. But I'm with you on this, that we just don't know. We don't have enough information, and we have to be responsible for those that are our loved ones and live near us, with us.
Especially, I think it's too soon to tell, because also, all those loans, which, by the way, today they have a deal already, Congress, to give more money to small business. But even the money that they had, the $350 billion, people hadn't got the money. They got the loan approved. They got the loan guaranteed, but they still have to fund that loan. So it's going to take a while for all this to start hitting people's wallets, and for this to start helping the economy.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's true. The money ran out. Everything is already sort of assigned. I'm not sure who has money, who doesn't have money yet. There's another $310 billion coming. It was approved today in the Senate. It's going to be voted, I think, on Thursday in the House and signed, or tomorrow in the House. I'm not sure, and then signed. But yeah, there's a timeline or a lag between signing and approving and then getting the actual money out there. That's why a lot of of people are.
We have Jaime here. What's up, Jaime? Thank you for watching, bro. So look, that's exact. He says, "Open America now." Feeding the sick, not the healthy.
What's the USUS? What does that mean?
That U.S.
Oh, U.S.
USA. I think that's what he's trying to say.
Well, look, that may be true. I don't know. Ultimately, the governors have to decide. In my personal choice, I will not be involved in any public activities. I'm not going to risk anything. If my governor says, you know what, we have the data, we have a lot of information that backs up that we can open up safely all at once, then okay, you know what? He has the data in California. There's a couple of studies, one from Santa Clara County, Stanford, and one from USC, my alma mater. And they're telling us that we've been infected, with this virus possibly earlier than this year. And a lot of people already have a antibody in their body. And the real numbers are a lot higher.
I'm pretty sure I already got infected, man, because when I came back from Vegas, after I thought I had the flu, and I don't think a lot of this, they hadn't really put a lot of information on the news.
Yeah.
And I did feel like aches all over my body with that flu.
Really? Well, the flu would give you that.
Something that I had never felt before, and it lasted like a week, and then I felt better. So I'm gonna go to the test. Maybe I already had it. I don't know.
Well, maybe, but look, whenever that becomes available for you, take the antibody test or whatever it is, and see if you have it or had it. But that's what these studies are saying. So if more information like that, scientific information, not just people's opinion, but scientific information tells us, you know what? We've already been infected. We're already beyond the curve. We're already free to go out and do whatever we need to do. Then fine. That's fine with me. But like I said, I would love to know, based on real information, what the reality is, or the closest we can get to that reality. And right now, there's only a couple of studies that are telling us that the numbers are a lot higher in California, and people have already been infected, and nothing happened in grand part. So wait and see. For me, it's wait and see. I have no rush to get out there and protest anything. So I'm happy. I'm happy writing.
What are the numbers that those statistics that you posted that people were not okay with?
I saw it on news earlier on Dana Perino on her daily briefing show. She posted that statistic that 70% of the population wasn't ready to open the country immediately, and 20% was ready to open immediately. If I remember the segment correctly, that's what it was.
But then you put this statistic where daily number of coronavirus deaths.
No, that's the leading cause of death. That's on my Facebook, and the link is there. It's from Statistic. Let me see. Let me give you the exact source. It's statista.com. statista.com. If you want, I can send it to your.
Let me put it here. Yeah, I want to put it here.
Let me see. Let me send this to you. Give me a second.
I want to put it here. So can you talk a little bit about it?
Well, look, the statistic is very simple. It basically points out the average daily deaths in 2019 and in 2020. And in 2020, the average COVID deaths per day are 624. Average. And the number as of April 19th, total average per day, I think that's the average per day, is 1,500 or so. So this is a very simple statistic. It's basically telling you how many people have died this year, only this year, and from basically from the first death reported until today or yesterday, comparing it to other things that people die in the U.S. That's it. I mean, that's all it is. It's nothing more than just a very simple comparison of who is dying from what in the United States.
Okay. So that tells us what? That
tells us as of today, COVID-19 is the leading cause of death in the United States. Because the total in the United States is 43,300, something like that. I mean, and that's the average number from all the different sources that are supposedly the official sources, right? So that's what those numbers are, and that's what this gives that number a validation that it's not just a number that I made up. I mean, it's a real source that's telling you and comparing the deaths in 2020 in the United States.
Wow. That is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot.
This is actually happening. I mean, it's real. The night gets there.
Your friend knows it's real.
I know. And not just him. His wife had it. And also his daughter also went to the hospital, but she's younger, but it wasn't as bad for her.
Uh-huh.
But
I mean, it's a real thing. People are, trying to argue that it's, maybe it's not real, it's overblown, whatever. Especially shows like Laura Ingraham, for example. I really don't like her show because she's kind of like one of those extremists. She's getting a lot like Ann Coulter, kind of extreme to the right. and sort of playing that audience with a bunch of information that is a little exaggerated at times. A little better source for this is probably Tucker Carlson. I think he's a little less political about it and more critical. And Laura Ingraham is, I don't even watch her that much anymore. Is a little, I don't know. I don't know how to describe her. I just prefer not to watch her anymore because it's really not. It's more like a political talking points and making arguments rather than basing anything on the entire argument on fact. Now, she'll get a little bit of fact and then she'll make an entire political argument about it. And Tucker Carlson will probably usually use facts all the way through and then add his opinions, but not sort of argue one way or the other. And that's a big difference between them.
I was trying if I can find the article because Channel 7 did an article on my friend. And they went on how the whole family was affected. So
wow,
he works for the lottery actually. So he was distributing
tickets money.
Yeah. Talking about this, this person you were talking about, I listened to her at the student summit in Florida, and she's very she's more of a motivational. The way she was talking to the kids, it was more like motivational. But yeah, she does throw a lot of she sensationalized a little bit.
Yeah, sensationalized. That's the word. Sensationalization. Too many S's there. Yeah, absolutely. I think she's a little on that, and she plays on that to her audience. So, I get that. That's fine. I mean, she's ultimately she needs ratings, and that's how she, captures her audience. But someone like me that is more based on facts, I can see right through that stuff, and I don't need all her extra opinions and motivation to make me think one way or the other. I just need information. I can research my own stuff, but the information is always good to get it from as many sources as possible. That filtered stuff, the opinion and all the other stuff, I don't need that. Like back in the day, there was a show called Dragnet, and the key phrase in that show was "just the facts, ma'am." So that's what I go by, just the facts.
Well, now that you're here and you're a facts guy, what do you think about this Trump closing immigration the country, extending it?
Well, technically, it was already closed. They weren't processing anything in terms of immigration, and people who come into or caught illegally in the border, they were being returned. So a lot of everything that was already happening, he's just making it into a formal presidential order. What's it called again? I forget. The thing he's going to sign. I forget. I'm sorry. I forgot.
Executive order.
The executive order. Thank you. Had a mental lapse there. And so basically, what is already happening, he's basically going to put it in writing and sign it and make it an executive order. So nothing really changes in that regard. And ultimately, the argument is, why should we bring in more people, for example, for the visa program to work inside the United States, when right now it's the American people that need the employment? So I agree with him 100% that we shouldn't bring in anybody in any visa program into the United States right now, whether it's just for immigration, but ultimately it's for work. Everything is for work. All immigration is ultimately for work in terms of permanent immigration. So that's fine with me. I'm 100% behind that decision, because one of the causes I support is bringing back American jobs into the country. So I am against a lot of the visa programs that are just designed to take away high-tech jobs or jobs where people have to train their foreign replacements and then get replaced. I mean, that's horrible, and I'm really against that. So that's a big issue in Silicon Valley. And I'm totally on the side of the American worker on that one, not the corporation at all.
You're right. Actually, we went to the Silicon Valley to Google we didn't like how Google was, stopping a lot of the information from posting.
Yeah.
You know, like they were really silencing a lot of us. And my experience being outside Google, it's like I was in another country, man. That was that was in the United States of America. People looked at us weird, man. Like we were some kind of cavernicolas, you know, some sort of a people that
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
belong there.
you know what the funny thing about that is? Silicon Valley is the melting pot. I mean, you have people from everywhere in the world. It doesn't look like a lot of America. It might look like a big city like New York and LA, but maybe more like New York. But it's very, very ethnic. And it's not ethnic in a way that it's like people that have been here for a long time and are now, you know, ethnically mixed, and they're just or their origin is simply from another nation. No, I mean, these are a lot of new immigrants, high skilled professionals that are working in Silicon Valley that have replaced a lot of people for less money, and that's a problem because you're bringing in people from other countries that can do the exact same job as any other American can in Silicon Valley or around the country, but they're paying them way less. And
Yeah,
that's not fair.
and you can see the public transportation coming in to drop him off and to pick him up, and
Yeah.
it's weird. It's like that.
Yeah. It's, I mean, it's one of the first times, you know, I was living abroad for a long time, and every time I would come into the United States, whether it was New York, Los Angeles, you know, Silicon Valley, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, Florida, I swear it was like still being in Latin America or a foreign country. I'm like, what the heck happened to America? You know, it's not America as I know it anymore. It's like, you know, if I want to live in Latin America, then I'll go to Latin America. I don't want that to be in my, you know, in my city in general, so to speaking, kind of. You know,
Hold on,
it's kind of hard to explain. I mean, it's not bias. It's just simply, you know, you're in America. This is the United States, and I understand we're a melting pot, but that's the whole point of a melting pot. You have to become part of it. You can't just always keep your culture isolated from everything else and not blend in.
So what do you think is going to happen here in California? Gavin Newsom, of course, he's going to try to melt this as much as he can, right?
Yeah. You know, I don't try to understand.
We're probably going to be the last ones to reopen. Let's put it that way.
Well, you know what? I would think not. We have way better statistics than New York in terms of the infected, deaths, hospital capacity. We're actually doing way better than New York. I mean, we have in California, what, 30 million, 40 million people? New York population is somewhere near that, a little higher, I think. But we're nowhere near their numbers. So if anything, we would open a lot faster. And I think that's the plan here in California. A lot of the local authorities, mayors, are going very Nazi on the people. I mean, they're putting them in jail or citing them for surfing. They're closing the skateboard ramps on the beach, filling them with sand, all kinds of crazy stuff. So, you know, I don't know what's ultimately going to happen in California, but I think we have a much better option to open sooner than later and much sooner than New York, because our numbers are way better than New York, way better.
Why do you think is that?
That our numbers are better?
You think that Californians actually follow rules better?
Well, here's part. Well, I don't know exactly why, but I can hypothesize. And let me say this. We have a big Chinatown in New York, in San Jose, Silicon Valley, Los Angeles. And we've probably been infected for a while and been building up the antibodies and resistance and what have you way before all of this. I mean, I don't know. It could have something to do. And then the USC and the Stanford reports, the research, sort of back something like that up. We have been exposed to it probably a lot sooner than a lot of people think. and we've already built the antibodies in our bodies, and we've already switched onto that process. So that could be part of the answer, or the reason why we may end up having lower numbers. But it's just a hypothesis.
Like the homeless, why are the homeless not getting as sick? You think they build the antibiotics by being on the street, being exposed to all kinds of...
Well, I mean, the homeless are pretty resistant. I mean, they can probably survive a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? I mean, oh man, who knows what's in their bodies? And a little germ is probably not going to do much more to them.
Do you think that's so also for third world countries, of people that just have been exposed to a lot of stuff?
Well, I can in Latin America, third world, they're exposed to poverty and very common diseases. They're not exposed to new pathogens that their bodies don't have resistance, because they are isolated for the most part. So like when the first time when Cortez came and conquered Mexico or what have you, and a lot of the natives died from diseases they brought over from Europe.
Right.
Syphilis and I don't know what else. So I'm guessing it could be something like that. Because
La viruela, or...
Yeah, measles, chickenpox, smallpox, all that stuff. So I don't think the people in Latin America would be any more, or Mexico, for example, I don't think they would be any more resistant to anything coming in from Asia. And in fact, some of the early numbers in Mexico indicate that this could get really serious in Mexico. Mexico City, and let me tell you, there's not a lot of reporting about this. Mexico City already reached its limits in hospital capacities because of the virus. But there's no reporting on that, even in Mexico. I mean, Reforma reported this a few days ago, but it gets no press. It has no feet or no traction. And people just ignore it because the government wants to ignore it. And all the newspapers in Mexico and all the media, they're essentially, they're called chayoteros in Mexico, which means the government buys a lot of the advertising. And if they start reporting things that are way too negative and against the general idea of what the government wants, they'll stop buying those ads. And so they'll lose a lot of money. So, you can't really believe media in Mexico. It's completely fake news.
That's the fake news.
Yeah, and they're called chayoteros. Just so you know the word. And if you call a reporter a chayotero in Mexico, he'll get upset, even though it's fact. And they're all pretty much chayoteros.
CNN, they're all a bunch of chayoteros.
Well, I don't know who pays CNN, but yeah, it kind of like in that logic, yeah.
So wow. So how are we gonna help our communities overcome this, man? Because we'll have the health care issues, but then you have the global financial crisis that's coming, and the unemployment and all this. Well, I already lived the meltdown, 2009, the recession. I was part of that.
No.
And to the date, I haven't recovered. So I don't know how people, especially the ones that have closed their business indefinitely.
Well, we're definitely looking at a recession. These rescue packages are going to help sort of like in the really, really short term. But ultimately, I think the economy has everything it needs structurally to be very successful, because we didn't have a bad economy. We had to shut everything down. It was like stopping like on a dime. That's the real problem. So once we start moving everything again, obviously a lot of companies aren't going to be able to recover from this, but there's going to be a lot of people out there, a lot of entrepreneurial spirit that's going to reactivate in new areas, new businesses. Maybe we'll have a loan program in the future for everyone that lost their business can get a loan to start up that new company again. Because, I don't know.
Look at this, that PPP program, the Paycheck Protection, whatever.
Yeah.
it's for you to pay people even if they're not working. So
Yeah.
me as an employer, I'm gonna pay this employer even though I'm not producing. What is
Yeah.
incentive for me to get myself into debt?
Well, you don't have to do it. You know what I'm saying? I
Right.
mean, you could want to do it, but if you do the math and you say, well, I'm going to get into debt, but if I pay my employees, the money's going to be become a grant, and so I don't have to pay it back. Then you have to do your numbers. If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You have to do the math as an employer, as a business owner. I'm not saying that it's the right thing to do for the program to be that way or not. I'm just saying everybody has to do their math. And sometimes it's better to take the loss, lose the business, and start over in 6 months than put yourself more into debt, try to avoid the inevitable, and what have you. I'm a very practical person when it comes to economics.
Look,
It either works or it doesn't.
Trump is very smart, and he knows how to deliver a message, and he has. And I usually, there's things that I hear, and I just have them there, and I'm trying to analyze them and just interpret that in a way that makes sense. And Trump said the businesses will come back.
Yeah.
Maybe not with the same owners, but they'll come back. He said it that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying. I didn't hear him say that, but that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, they're going to come back one way or the other. They're going to come back because if you're a restaurant owner and you had to close down and everything got shut down, trust me, you're going to find money in the new economy to start that business again. It's going to be there one way or the other. It will be there because you have the ability to make a successful business. I mean, it's already been proven. The COVID situation had, you were forced to shut down, but ultimately you have that talent, you have that skill, and people will invest in you. I mean, this is America. It's entrepreneurs galore here. So I have no problem with believing that the country is going to boom right after this, because there's nothing wrong with our economy. We just had to stop it. We had to close the door, turn the lights off, and it wasn't anything structural that was wrong with us.
Wow, I'm excited to see this rebirth of America, because you're right. It's going to be seeing everybody motivated again, and the only thing that I is timing. I don't know this COVID, why in the middle of the election, and why, it's just it's just like we're trying to reelect Trump, and at the same time we're dealing with this. It's very hard, and now. Well, now that I have you here, and it's very important that I ask you this question. Telemundo called me. They wanted to put me on the spot. And I can tell, she says, well, Marco, there's a lot of people that believe that illegals should not get any help from the government because legal people are not getting it.
Mm-hmm.
So she wanted a soundbite from me saying, "Yeah, don't give me anything," because Gavin Newsom and some other governors are allocating funds to help the undocumented community. Now, legally, the way things are set up with the IRS and their TIN number, they are not entitled to get benefit from the IRS because they're not seen as a taxpayer. Per se with the federal. With the state, they are. So legally, no, they're not supposed to get any funds. But economically, I think they should, because we have a symbiotic relationship with them, and they have, whatever happens to them affects all of us. So these people have already contributed to the economy somehow. You take benefits to them, then they're not going to pay their insurance. They're not going to, and there's a lot of insurance people that are not going to get their money. The rent. There's a lot of renters that will not get the money. So what do you think about this people? How do we handle that?
Well, look, if we just look at it very coldly and not from the right or from the left, and we make the following argument. they're here illegally anyways. The state and the federal, they already spent money on them. But if we look at what they consume in California, for example, remember in California, you pay taxes when you buy a Snickers, when you pay for your gasoline, when you go, I think, to the grocery store, you pay a tax, local, state taxes. And they've already contributed to the state economy by paying a lot of those taxes just by spending whatever money they have from working in this state, whether it's obviously it's illegally. But they are paying taxes. Now, I am a humanitarian. I don't want to see people, I don't want to see children, hungry in their homes because because I'm a Republican and I believe that nobody should be helped just because they're illegal. No, not at all. I think we have a responsibility to help everyone because ultimately we should be humanitarian. We should believe that no one deserves to suffer within our country. And if we believe that, then it shouldn't be an issue helping people that have been paying taxes locally and statewide for as long as they've been here, whether it's legal or not. So from that perspective, I see that issue. I don't want children. I don't want anyone being, going hungry, having this extreme poverty in this country just because right now we have a situation that shut down the economy and basically gave them no options to work. Let me tell you, I've worked in Mexico for a long time in government, and I've seen poverty firsthand, and I've seen how people suffer, children, the mothers, the fathers, teenagers, young people, old people. It's horrible because you're essentially destroying lives and you're destroying expectation. They have no expectation for their lives because their only concern is just getting enough to eat. And that's why countries like Mexico and all of Latin America, they don't really progress that much because people are more concerned about having enough to eat than building a business, than doing whatever. Because their main concern is, damn, I need water and I need food for my children and for myself. So from that perspective and from my experience, I don't think it's wrong to help people out in a situation so extreme as this one, in my personal perspective.
Now, I think something is coming out of this, and I like it. I had a great conversation with somebody by the name Julio Gonzalez. And he is an entrepreneur. I think he's Trump's neighbor in Florida. And he helped Trump with the tax reform that they were doing in 2016. And I cornered him because he's tax expert. And I was thinking that he was really going to go to the right, but he kind of went to the left a little bit when I said, look, what are we going to do with all these people? There's people here in the Bay Area that are undocumented and that are getting a 1099 with a 19 number. They're making $300,000. Why are we not making these people pay their fair share? They should pay at the top. They should. But they're not because because they're illegal, right?
That's the problem with politics. That's the problem with politics. You make it. It's about. It's so frustrating to me sometimes because if you're on the right, you have to think a certain way. If you're on the left, you have to think a certain way, and you can't find practical solutions that are logical. Why? In this case, for example, well, we can't help that person because he's illegally in the country and we're never going to make him legal. So we're never going to collect those taxes, even though he's making $300,000 a year. You follow that logic? We can never do that because he's illegal. So that's why I'm saying, we have to find a middle ground that isn't, one way or the other, you have to be the Republican or Democrat because you can't win politically in this country.
Now, I promised him that I was going to start talking about it and maybe do a work permit that will allow us for everybody to get their fair share, because they go into a cash world. And I've seen this little Mexican market make millions of dollars in all cash under the table, and they're not paying their fair share. And then they're doing loans. They're doing they have like their private banking industry that they're going on, where they lend people money in cash. But
Mexico is the official numbers probably won't reflect this, but in my opinion, because I lived there so long, working there in government and in business and in economics, all activity, even if you're a formal company, corporation, you're doing a lot of business outside the system. At the little mercaditos, in the small towns, all throughout the country, even the big corporations, they hate paying taxes. And the little lady that's making the chalupas at night isn't going to pay any taxes, right? But the big corporation, they'll find a way to not pay taxes. So I agree with that these markets have a way of finding a system that works for them, that is sort of a microeconomy outside of the system, the main economy. And I agree with you. I bet a lot of money is moving in those markets, and people are not paying anything on taxes. And us as a state, as a city, as a country, we're losing a lot of tax revenue. I believe in lower taxes anyway. So, I believe we're overtaxed to begin with. But I follow that logic, and I understand what you're saying, that we need to sort of take advantage of that economic activity.
I mean, not to bring any attention to them, but I know firsthand that if I go to the bank, open a bank account, they're going to get all my information, make sure my social security numbers is correct, right? But this little mercaditos, they cash your check if they don't care which name is on the check.
Yeah. I mean,
they just have to say, because they know you, and that's it. That's all it takes. It's just a trust between you and the community.
That's how it works. That's an informal economy, and it works. It works because it makes people money. That's why it works. And it's simple economics. As my former economics teacher at UNC would say, it's simple economics. That's what it is.
So you cash your check there, and you buy your 6-pack there. You buy all your groceries there in the little market. That's it. I mean, it's just. And this is, you're pushing these people out of the economy. And this was part of my taco trucks on every corner complaint to America. We need to structure this, or we are, somehow we need to structure it.
Look, Latin people are very practical. That's something I think you know very well. And I certainly know that very well. And we're very practical. We won't complicate things when the solution can be very simple. So, if government is completely different. They'll complicate everything when it can be very simple. Why? Because they want to spend more money. They want bigger budgets. They just want to tax more and what have you. So, it's their loss ultimately. And I can't really say much more about that. But, government is government, and politics is politics. And it's impossible to sometimes reach practical solutions that are good for everybody, because nobody can claim a victory,
Okay, well, I think we're getting somewhere here, and I think if we get more people that think like you and me, and I was talking to Jasmina and somebody else that speaks Spanish, we're going to be doing a show every Thursday, so that we can start bringing this to the table, because ultimately, just like I was telling you the other day, a lot of these Hispanic people, just because they said, "Oh, I ask the government for anything," that doesn't mean the government is not spending money on them, because the government is making these big roads that they drive on. Yeah. The government is making this world-class living conditions that they live under. They go to these great parks that they would never, you will never see these parks in Mexico. I mean, they have air conditioning at the public school, so they are paying. They are asking something from the government, and they should pay back to the government
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they should pay their fair share. But like I said, because of politics, they're excluded from the system. Nobody, one side will not accept them ever being formally part of the country, and another side wants them at all costs. And no one's ever going to win that argument, and everything's going to stay just the way it is right now. That's why my policy was a little bit sort of more creative, and it sort of touched base on what they really want. And what is it that a lot of these illegal immigrants want? They want to be able to be successful in their own country. They want to be able to go back to Mexico, build their big house, have their really good business, and support their family, and come to the U.S. to visit. They want to be with their family ultimately. A lot of them don't, but the majority do. The one that just got over, the illegals. So my policy was about helping them go back to their country and being successful down there. The United States spends, I think, $500 million a year on Mexico through USAID, in programs that aren't worth a jack. I mean, they really aren't. And they just spend that money. And a lot of the people that end up benefiting from those programs are the intermediaries. And the people that really need the help, they don't get any help. So if we can use some of that money to help to motivate some of the illegal immigrants to go back to Mexico, start businesses, get involved in politics, and try to change their country, I think we can get a lot of people to go back into Mexico and make them sort of part of the system where they can get visas, come back, visit, spend their money. Trust me, a lot of people don't want to stay in the United States. Second generation does. The ones that were born here, have illegal parents or what have you, they do. They definitely want to stay here because that's the only country they know. But not the ones that, that remember their hometown, that remember their, whatever they did as youths in Mexico, that miss Mexico, that want to go back. The vast majority wants to go back because that's where they grew up. That's what they know. That's where they want to be seen as successful in their communities. And here it's really hard for them, because they're living in the shadows.
Yeah, I've been out there since the beginning, and I have had the opportunity to see America, the heart of America, I guess you can say. And I have seen the frustration of all this rural America, you can say, or the backbone of America. And what they say, first they look at me like, wow, this an alien right here. They say, we don't have a problem with you being here, just do it legally. And they say it again and again and again. And I'm trying to say, well, why don't we work to legalize these people that are here anyway, and just start seeing who's eligible to be here, who deserves to be here, and so we fix this. They don't have to be citizens. Why are we going to give citizenships so they can vote for the Democrats? We can just give them a permit, and that's it.
Yeah, that's part of my proposal. They don't have to be citizens. They can be legally in the country. Maybe they'll never have a path to citizenship because they came here illegally. But guess what? You can work because you're already here. And if you want to go back to your country, we'll find a way to finance that business that you're going to have in Mexico. And you're going to pay taxes on that money. And you're going to pay that money back. So, there's a lot of things we can do, but nobody pursues any of that because one side says, get them all out of the country. It doesn't matter. They're here illegally, blah, 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 blah. And then the other side says, no, give them everything. So it's just so divisive. It's such an issue. It's an issue that's divisive because it generates money as well for donating to a party, whether it's Republican or Democrat. And there are only a few voices on both sides that promote this sort of division because of that issue. The entire party does not believe that. But it's just a hardcore group that have a loud voice, that are organized in terms of illegal immigration, that want to do a certain policy for illegal immigrants. Donald Trump, he has to sort of accept some of that policy, even though I bet he would be a lot more practical in resolving that illegal immigration issue than a lot of Republicans would probably think. because he's a practical person and he knows what works and what doesn't work and what can make you money as a country. And keeping these people illegal as a country is only losing money for the country.
Okay, just to close here, we're almost out of time, but what do you think about the oil and about this, the central banking system and all this conspiracy theories and all that?
Well, the oil, that was pretty historic. Yesterday it was at minus 37. Today I think it closed at $10. What that's going to do in terms of regional economics is a country like Mexico is going to suffer tremendously because their entire budget, well, the vast majority of their budget is based, their government budget is based on oil revenue. And oil revenue has just been cut by 70%. So their budget is going to suffer a great deal. Their rating, their credit rating has already been lowered to, I think, triple B minus. That means their debt is going to be more expensive. They could be facing a decade-long crisis if the oil prices stay at this level and if they don't recuperate pretty quickly. In terms of the central bank conspiracy, I haven't heard the conspiracy. What's the conspiracy?
Well, you know that the central, you know how our money is not backed by silver and dollar and all how the Federal Reserve is not really an entity, it's not part of the government, it's really a private entity.
Yeah, it's a private bank.
And through this shuffling that Trump has been doing, he sort of got a new board of directors in the Federal Reserve to where it's sort of like he has a little bit of control now of that agency. And if he does, because they have us hostage, really, this Federal Reserve.
Well, the Federal Reserve is a private bank. There's a lot of conspiracy theories around the Federal Reserve, but the way it works, the way it works, as far as we know, as far as I know, is that it issues debt. Other countries buy the debt, and it allows the government to have that money. For example, right now the U.S. took on $2 trillion in debt for the first rescue package, and
I think the total was like 6 trillion, but
I think 4 trillion was the credit line.
Yeah.
Like that. But that money, for example, didn't come from anywhere. They just essentially allowed the U.S. to print the money, so to speak. So they didn't sell anything in the international market. They didn't sell the debt. Like, for example, I have $2 trillion in bonds. Who's going to buy it? China buys it. Europe buys it. And now I have money and I owe another $2 trillion to these companies, to these nations. And, that's the national debt. And that's how I got that $2 trillion. In this case, the Federal Reserve simply sort of bought the money itself, so to speak. I mean, it has no money, but it said, okay, here's $2 trillion worth of what money you can print. It sort of authorized them, so to speak. It gets a little convoluted. It gets a little technical. I'm not an expert on the Federal Reserve, but it's supposedly a big scam. I don't know. I've never taken the time to follow all the conspiracy theories. Like the Rothschilds are the owners, Rockefellers, and it's a private bank that they own all the Federal Reserves throughout the world, and it's the group that basically runs the world. I don't know any of that. I've never really gotten into it. I just know some of the basics of how the Federal Reserve works. Read
a little bit about how it came to be in 1913 and how a lot of the income, income tax it's a scam. We shouldn't pay income tax.
I know how it was created. I know the 1913. I remember that supposedly Kennedy was killed when he signed that something about eliminating the Federal Reserve. Like a week later, he was killed, something like that. But I know where it comes from. I know where the logic comes from in historical terms and how it was at one time removed from the federal government, then it was brought back. But what I'm really referring to is, that whole thing about who controls it and what's going on in the background. Ultimately, the Federal Reserve is a bank that authorizes the money the U.S. federal government is spending. It's the federal government's private bank. That's it. I mean, that's what it basically is.
So do you think the petrodollar, what's called the petrodollar, is going to be affected by this, whatever happened here?
The petrodollar is now the petro penny. Oh my God. I mean, Mexico's annual budget is about $500 billion. I mean, it's nothing. That's their annual budget. I think their annual budget is $500 billion. So cut that. The oil prices fell. I think they were at like $40. They fell to 10 today. They were minus 37 yesterday. So take about 2/3 of that money out of their income for next year or the rest of the year. And they're hurting. They're going to be hurting. So there's really no petrodollar right now. Everyone will operate at a loss. It's supposedly you have to break even something like at $25 a barrel oil in order to break even for the corporations. And Mexico is probably even higher than that because it's very inefficient. It's all corruption in Mexico.
And I guess somehow when you have these wells, these oil wells, once they open them, you can't close them. I mean, they have to keep pumping. And if you close them, it's just so expensive to reopen them up. It's a crazy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know any of that engineering. I mean, like I said, I'm not an expert on that particular issue, but I'm assuming I don't know if you can close an oil well or not. I mean, I don't know. With today's technology, I have no idea on that subject. I'll look into it for next time. But
okay. Let's get together next week and let's keep going on this because I think we're onto something and all this changing and there's going to be definitely immigration changes on the legal side. I mean, the legal immigration is going to continue to do whatever they do, but that should also fixing the legal immigration will definitely fix the legal side as well.
Well, I mean, I support a comprehensive immigration reform. I believe, there should be some kind of path, not to citizenship, but to some kind of legal status. I prefer to motivate people to go back to their country through those incentive programs that I'm talking about, with money that's already being spent in that country, in that particular country, whether it's Mexico, San Salvador, Nicaragua, or wherever. U.S. aid is in every country. So there's money already there. It's already budgeted. There's nothing new there. And plus, we can get a lot of that money back if we create the right incentive programs. And these people that go back and start their company or business down in Mexico or wherever in Latin America, and then want to come back into the U.S., they can come back as a tourist and maybe even as residents after 10 years. It's all about finding the right solution that can work to motivate these people to go back and be successful in their countries and hopefully also be involved in politics so they can change something in their home country.
Wow. Okay. Well, anything else you want to say before we go?
Oh, thank you. And take care of yourself. Don't go to any rallies. Stay away from the rallies.
Oh, I think I gave myself away. But no, yeah, my family cornered me, man. And they say, hey, you can go, but you're going to quarantine yourself.
Yeah. I would have done the same. That would have thrown you in the backyard, man. I'd have given you some tent, some water. There you go. You can come back in 2 weeks.
How's things going in Silicon Valley, just to close? Because I did read that some people that the Santa Clara County I think it was Santa Clara County, they were going to help people with up to $4,000 if they were affected by the coronavirus. You might want to look into that.
I don't know. I haven't heard that. The only thing I heard about was that Governor Newsom was going to give illegals $500. I think that was his proposal. As far as Santa Clara County helping with $4,000, I haven't heard that. I'll look into it because, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would love to know about that program. And if it's some kind of a business grant, it's some kind of just, social welfare type program or whatever it is. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would want to know about that. and I'll definitely look into it.
And a lot of people don't know what $1,200 federal money that people are gonna get, which I haven't got anything. But what is $1,200 for somebody who lives in Silicon Valley or here in San Francisco?
You know, it's just like, you don't have your job and you get $1,200, you could probably eat for another month. I don't know. You know, excuse me, don't pay your rent because they can't kick you out. You know, don't pay your water bill, your phone bill, because they're supposedly not charging or collecting or disconnecting. So, you know, that could be a month's worth of food. Well, man, in San Francisco, probably about a week. It's really expensive over there.
I think I'm going to have a lot of work once this is done as a debt collection consultant, because a lot of people are in that.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure they are. There are probably a lot of bankruptcies. You know, my sister does a lot of bankruptcies. She's like a paralegal kind of thing. I mean, that's like her side business. Mm-hmm. And yeah, a lot of people are already asking about how to file bankruptcy. So, well, if you need someone like that, I'll send you my sister. You guys can be in touch.
Yeah, a lot of my clients are probably going to end up filing, which is unfortunate. But hey, we have to do whatever we have to do because if they don't reopen America, and even if we reopen America, we really don't know how things are going to end up. You know, like you said, you know, businesses might change ownership and things are shuffled there.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's going to happen. In terms of the virus, you know, we don't know. But in terms of economics, it's going to be a boom. Once we get, you know, the green light to completely open, everything's back to normal. If we even get back to normal, a lot of people are saying we're never going to get back to normal. So I don't know. But economically, once we're allowed to sort of reopen the economy, I think it's going to be a boom. Everyone's going to want to start their business, restart their lives in that activity. And hopefully, you know, we're going to have a big boom in the economy and everyone's going to be happy again, even though we may permanently be socially distanced, which in general I already was, but that's another story.
Hey, you had asked me that you wanted to do maybe like a weekly show, and I did tell actually Julio. So yeah, you can, I can help you use this format that I'm using.
Yeah, I definitely. I actually want to do 2 podcasts or a show like this because one, I have a lot of Mexican political contacts that are going to need to be on social media because as of right now, the campaigns have been suspended in Mexico. There was an election going to go on in July, and that's completely shut down. So they're going to need a new way to campaign. And I was thinking about having a forum like this where I can do a lot of the interviews with a lot of these people and essentially have, you know, a forum for them to talk about policy and everything. And it's not going to be focused with one party or the other. It's going to be open for everyone. And in the U.S. side, more about what my organization is going to be about is, you know, bringing more Latinos into politics, trying to stay in the middle and hopefully get them elected, sort of show them how to get funding, get involved in politics, make a difference, try to do something for California or the country. And so those are 2 ideas for 2 different podcasts or programs like this.
You can actually put up to 6 people on this program, or you can do Zoom where you can put, you know, 40 people there.
Oh yeah, you can put a lot of people on Zoom. Yeah. Actually, yeah, definitely. Let's talk about that. I definitely want to do that. I was actually going to go back to Mexico and do it from my house in Mexico, or, you know, yeah, be all relaxed and away from everything.
So you're not afraid to go to Mexico, huh, and do politics? I would be scared to do politics in Mexico, man.
Well, I was doing politics in Mexico for about 20 years. Let me tell you, it's probably safer to be in a snake den full of cobras and mambas than in Mexican politics. They almost killed me twice. And so it's really dangerous. And I'm the kind of person that questions everything. So I don't fall for a lot of the BS of the politicos or even the governors that were my bosses. I'm not a yes man. I'm not. So I rub people the wrong way a lot of the time, and I kind of
Well,
do it on purpose.
I saw that you got rid of my pastor here.
Oh yeah, because he said a lot of things that were just like, yeah, well, they're just not factually correct. It's like a lot of hype, right?
Well, he does a lot of he does a lot of reporting for Alex Jones and a lot of news outlets that do have that kind of narrative.
Yeah, a little amarillista, ¿no?
Right.
As they say in Spanish. So I'm kind of like that way. So yeah, Mexican politics is dangerous. The only thing you have to worry about Mexican politics to be successful is be part of a little group that it has someone that wants to be, the governor, the senator, the congressman, and be part of that team and work with them as they grow. That's how I did it. When I first went to Mexican politics, I was invited by the Minister of Economic Development of Hidalgo. And everybody told me, yeah, that dude is going to be governor. So, and I knew a little bit about Mexican politics to begin with because I'd done a lot of reading on how it works. And so my whole plan was to be part of a political team. And yeah, he took me along with him. And I could have probably been one of the guys in our team. Recently was the second most powerful guy in Mexico. He was the Secretario de Gobernación in the Peña Nieto, and that guy almost had me removed. He was my rival a long time ago. And that dude, we'll talk in private, but that dude is like, he's not all there. But he's a really powerful guy, and he was part of that team, and along with other people that became very powerful.
Well,
from that team, we had three governors came out of that team. A lot of people thought I would be one of those governors, but there's just too much corruption for me to be involved at that level.
I actually saw, now that you're talking about, I went to Misquiahuala once, and I saw in La Plaza there, they had this huge stage, and there was going to be a political event that day. And I was like, these guys invest so much money. I mean, it was a stage like a big stage, like como un rockero,
dude, there is so much money in Mexican politics when you're the main candidate. Why? Because the state government, if you're the same party as the state government that's in power, if you're the main candidate, it's because the government is supporting you. So they're funneling a lot of money to your campaign. All the private business in the state and nationally are funneling a lot of money to your campaign. So you have unlimited resources to do whatever you want, because once you become governor, you will have a budget at your disposal. People don't believe me, but a governor in a small state like Mexico that has a budget smaller than USC, because USC has a budget of like 40 billion, 50 billion, and a state like Hidalgo would have a budget like $30 billion, 35 billion, maybe even 40 billion. You have full control of that budget, and you're going to end up making about $100 million a year as the governor for yourself. I mean, at least. So it's a gold mine. Everybody fights for it. They'll kill you for it. But ultimately, I never wanted to be, one of those politicos, because I always wanted to come back in the U.S. and have a clean record. And imagine me running for Congress in the U.S. when I was governor in another state, or senator in some state in Mexico, or congressman, and have all these allegations of corruption against me. Because trust me, you can't be in politics in Mexico in an elected position or controlling the budget without being corrupt. It's not going to happen. And that's my personal opinion from my analysis, my research in Mexico, from knowing the system for so many years. Everything is corrupt. So, I wasn't going to be that person. Like my mom said, no estudiaste para ser ratero. and and that is like one of my mantras in life. And in my family, one side of my family is very sort of noble in that way. The Mexico side of the family. The U.S. side of the family is very not that way. Let's just leave it at that.
But $40 billion for a little state in Mexico. Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and when there was an oil boom in early 2000, oil was at $110 a barrel. Their budget was, Hidalgo's budget was like 60 billion. 60 billion. So, and that's when my rival was governor, and that's how he got into the Peña Nieto campaign, because he would funnel money from his budget to the Peña Nieto campaign, and he essentially bought his place in that campaign and eventually in that administration. So, I mean, that's how it works in Mexico. You buy your position. If I want to be secretary of whatever, like secretary of economic development for the state of Mexico, I can buy that position if I had enough money. I wouldn't have to be a political player. I would just go talk to the governor who was in the campaign, or the candidate, or when he was the governor, and I say, you know what, here's $50 million, here's $100 million. Let me be, I want to be, secretary of economics for your state. And they'll say, okay, fine, it's done. And that's how it works. And because you can make a lot of money. Every position there, you can make a lot of money.
Isn't that like Chicago style?
Oh, hell yeah. It's gangsta style. One day I'm going to write my book on Mexican politics. Maybe I'll even make a mini series for Netflix. My buddy, let me promote my buddy's film. My friend from USC, Jay Karras, he was my roommate at USC. He's a film director, TV, film producer, what have you. He has a movie on Netflix right now. It's called The Main Event. I think it's number 3 in the country in terms of most watched. So I recommend it. It's a family film. Watch it with your kids. My little kids loved it. I really recommend it. So big plug for my buddy's film, The Main Event, directed by Jay Karras, my roommate from USC.
Awesome.
See, now we're doing movie plugs on your show.
Okay, Ignacio. Buenas noches. Buenas tardes.
Buenas noches. Take care.